Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Bretton Theune. I'm a senior journalism major with an emphasis in broadcast. I'm graduating this December, so in a few weeks. I'm a little nervous, also excited, but I'm also glad to be here presenting on my summit portfolio today, which is how do I get on the ice? And that is a pretty unique question, and it's the question that has led me to my path down journalism, and let's get into it. So before I go into how I found journalism, I have to preface something. Like Stu said, I am from Canadian roots, not my heritage. I'm actually born and raised in Alberta, Canada. Now, if you go to where they stop making roads and then just a few hours south, you'll find my house. I'm way up there in the north, and that was where I was born and raised and have been ever since. So in August of 2014, when people found out I was coming to Biola, I was bombarded with a lot of questions from my family, from my friends. Even myself, I had a few questions myself, and those ranged from, what are you going to do? Well, where did that come from? Why journalism? Not accounting. Everyone thought growing up I was going to be an accountant. My dad has his own practice, and I was supposed to take it over, being groomed for the position. Well, why broadcast? At Bible school, are you sure? Wait, where's Biola? Los Angeles, like Hollywood? Everyone who thinks I go to school in Los Angeles thinks I'm just walking around with celebrities all day. That's how it's pictured outside of LA County, out in the world. And are you sure? It's how much, for how many years, and what are you going to be? So these are the questions that I was wrestling with during my first year at Biola, driving down here my freshman year. And I had to look back on what brought me to pursue a career in journalism. And it all started with this guy right here. That is the Novice Storm Canada West All-Stars top scorer of 2005. Obviously, you can see he's very happy. I think this is the year right before I knew that I'm not going to make the NHL. That's why I got that big smile. I still have dreams of becoming a professional athlete. And like Drew said, every kid grows up wanting to be a professional athlete if you play sports, right? You want to be on the big stage. You want to be out there. You want to win whatever trophy it is for that sport. So I began playing hockey at a very young age and played it all the way till I was 18 years old. And right after this picture was taken, I probably realized you're not going to be able to do that. But that was heartbreaking because that was my passion in life. All I wanted to do was be on the ice when a Stanley Cup final was happening, or when they presented the Stanley Cup, when the fans cheer and the banners go up. That's all I wanted to do growing up, for all I can remember. That's all we have up there. We can't play any other sports. There's no outdoor sports. It's just hockey and curling. So it led me to realize that there's someone who gets to be on the ice regardless of team, regardless of being a coach or an assistant coach, not even a family member of the team. And he's out there every single year, and that is this guy named Scott Oake. And I remember watching Stanley Cup finals over and over and realizing, hey, Scott Oake is out there every single time on the ice. Scott Oake gets to be part of that experience. He gets to interview the players. It's very emotional. And he gets to enjoy that all the time because he was a reporter for CBC Sports. And so that led me to say, I think I could do that. I don't mind public speaking. And when I got my first laptop, I wasn't on accounting softwares like my father. I was on iMovie, which Stu has tried to get us off of. I still, every now and then, have to get back on and edit something pretty simply. But I discovered iMovie on my first laptop, and I loved it. Actually making this e-portfolio site, I had to go to all my old YouTube channels and expunge every junior high video I've ever made and text old friends to get videos off, because when you typed in Bretton Theune, some pretty embarrassing junior high iMovie videos popped up. And so I loved editing, and I put two and two together and thought, hey, maybe I could do this. So why Biola? Well, when we first visited the campus and my mom saw a 50-foot Jesus mural, I was basically enrolled at that time. Couldn't really get that idea off her mind. And what I knew about Biola is that it was super close to my favorite place on earth, which was Huntington Beach. We came here as a family a lot, and I realized that if I could spend all my weekends there, that was a lot better than spending my weekends here, which is what I was used to. So I thought, why not? I'm going to go to LA for 4 years and become a journalist. So that is how I started out the departure here. So then it became all about sports for me. This is 2014. This is my first year at Biola, and I took about 5 or 6 journalism classes, and in all of them, all I wanted to do was sports. Whether it was writing about sports, talking about sports, anchoring on the desk about sports, even on the green screen, I didn't want the weather graphic up there. I wanted it to be something about sports, because that's all I knew, that's all I wanted to talk about. And I was enjoying it because I was finally in a market that had more than one major sports team. LA and Anaheim obviously have huge amounts of professional sports teams. So I was having a blast, and this was the first video I made at Biola that I was super proud of. It was for Stu's intermediate broadcast class. I did an interview of Californians talking about hockey, which is kind of an ironic thing. And it was the first video that I produced, and I was like, wow, I'm a broadcast journalism major. And I put it out there, and I was super happy with it. So I'm just going to watch 30 seconds of it here.
So we're in the second round of the NHL playoffs, about halfway through. And all I've been hearing lately is there's no Canadian teams in the playoffs. I thought you guys were good at this sport, because we all know that there's no good Canadian players on any of the American teams. So as a Canadian myself, I had to move to the hockey capital of the world, which is now Southern California, where they have two incredible teams that both made the postseason. So I went out and asked these fine people if they really appreciate what they have. Here's what they had to say. And
so you can find the video on my website later if you want to finish that. A few of you in this class were present during that, so you've probably seen that video more times than you want to. But that was my first experience where I said, wow, I'm a broadcast journalist. I'm making these awesome videos. And that's when people asked me back home, you know, what are you doing in journalism? I said, I'm doing this. I'm interviewing people about hockey in California. And then when I had to do more writing stuff, and like Dr. Longnose class for the Chimes, I was writing about the soccer team. And I knew it got really bad when I wrote about women's golf finishing 11th out of 13th before writing about anything else. I remember walking into the newsroom in the Chimes, and they said, you know, you can write about any story you want. And I said, did Biola play any sports this weekend? And they said, well, the women's golf team finished 11th out of 13th. And I was like, give me that over anything else, because I just wanted to stick to sports. And that was my first year at Biola, 2014. But as I progressed, it went to 2015, and I realized that I still don't want to focus just on news, but I won't do just sports. I started writing more entertainment pieces. My roommate at the time was the entertainment section editor for the Chimes, so whenever he didn't have a project, he'd get me to write stories for him. So I was writing hard-hitting news pieces like I Find Your Lack of Love Disturbing, which looked at the new Star Wars movie. Also, a great one was The More Christmas Music, the Merrier, which argues that you can start listening to Christmas music November 1st. And so going from sports, this was now my writing aspect of journalist. I was putting out news that was about stuff that I personally loved. I wasn't pursuing anything that didn't appeal to me. It was about new Star Wars movies and listening to Christmas music. And I still wasn't, at the time, interested in doing news stories. And that was my first 2 years at Biola. So I spent 50% of the time here just pursuing things that interest me as a journalist, which led me to the realization in 2016. And I'm not trying to make this political. I actually don't have any say in the matter as a Canadian. And what caused me to realize a major thing about my major was these headlines during the 2016 election. As a Canadian myself, it was kind of fun because I could just sit back. I didn't actually have to have an opinion on it. I just watched as people would argue for their candidate, or get in fights over that. And I realized that I couldn't avoid this, that it was popping up everywhere, and the most important place it was popping up was on my Facebook. I couldn't avoid people fighting on Facebook. Not even my people at Biola, people in Canada who, same thing, don't have a say on the matter, were arguing over this political election, which felt like all 4 years of Biola, to be honest. And what was happening is I recognized that my major, journalism, was being used as a catalyst for anger and for conflict, and I realized that people were just arguing on Facebook, and it wasn't even arguing their own beliefs. They were just throwing political news segments at each other. Here's an article from CNN. Well, here's an article from Fox. Well, did you see this article? Did you see what he said? It was taking journalism to a place that I didn't want to see it go, and I realized that moment was when I noticed that journalism needs to be fixed in a way. Journalism needs to have a full 180, because right now it's just being used to stir conflict in the nation. And that led me to ask, what is journalism? I had to kind of sit down and come to terms with, well, journalism isn't actually interviewing people at Huntington Beach about hockey. Journalism isn't writing about Christmas music and Star Wars movies. Journalism has to be something more. It has to be actual newsworthy pieces. And I don't like definitions. I'm not like a Webster's definition guy. I love finding quotes about stuff because it spreads a nice, vast picture of what something can be. So I found these quotes around that time. I saved these. These are my favorite ones. Walter Cronkite, obviously a very famous broadcast journalist, said, "Journalism is what we need to make democracy work," which seemed at the time ironic because democracy was using journalism to fuel anger and fuel more debates. Oscar Wilde said, "In America, the president reigns for 4 years, but journalism governs forever and ever." And again, I said, well, that doesn't seem true right now, because it seemed like the candidates and other people were controlling what the journalists had to say by making such outrageous statements, right? How could you not write about that? So it seemed that even the candidates were governing what is being said in the journalism world. This one from Pulitzer says, "I'm deeply interested in the progress and elevation of journalism, having spent my life in that profession, regarding it as a noble profession and one of unequaled importance for its influences upon the minds and morals of people." That last part there is the part I want to focus on, for the influence on the minds and morals of people, because if journalism done correctly can be one of the most outstanding things we have in this country, that we have the freedom to do, because we can affect the public for positive ways to show them stuff. But if journalism is done negatively, if it's done poorly, then you affect the minds and morals of people in the same way that you're doing your journalism, negatively and poorly. And my favorite one here from Ben Hugh, because it relates to a sports term, is, "Journalism is a craft that takes years to learn. It's like golf. You never get it right all the time. It's a game of fewer errors, better facts, and better reporting." And this is my favorite quote about journalism, even sports too, because it's so true. You'll never find perfect journalism. And that's what I think I struggled with the most at that time, is I was trying to find a perfect example of journalism, but there is none. You never get it right all the time. You're going to have errors. You're going to make mistakes sometimes, but it's getting better and better reporting. It's working on the things that you need to improve on. So that's what I started to do at Biola. And then I had to ask myself, well, who are journalists? Because if anyone has a phone on them right now, all 15 of us in this room have the ability to go live right now and report to an audience. And we all have our own platforms to project ourselves. And that's what journalism used to be. It's someone who had the say, right, in newspapers and media and radio. But now everyone, because of these little devices, can go live. And so that confused me, because I was a little discouraged. But this advice from Glenn Kessler from the Washington Post was a great thing for me.
First of all, don't think journalism is dead. There's still a role for it, even in the new media age. There's never been a greater opportunity to be a journalist, because there are now so many different platforms. And that
So what I saw as a negative, that there are now all these new platforms and anyone can blog, anyone can make a WordPress site. I saw it as, wow, anyone can be a journalist if they want to. What does my Bachelor's of Arts from Biola make me, right? And then I realized that, actually, no, this is an opportunity that I have more opportunity than any journalist before me, because of all the technology that we've advanced with. So that was something that I came. So now I've been looking for truth. My final year at Biola, I've been searching for stories that matter and searching for stories that people want to actually hear about, not just my own personal interests. The other day I shot a stand-up near the 5 freeway. It almost killed me. And it was not the most exciting thing to me, because I don't want to be talking about construction on the 5 freeway, but people want to hear about construction on the 5 freeway because it's driving people mad. And most recently I did a package about the active shooter message that went out to Biola, because whether I was in the CAF or in my dorm, everyone was talking about different facts they've heard. Well, I heard it was this, I heard it was this. So I thought, this is an opportunity where I can sit down, find the people who are actually involved with it, and tell the true story. And so that's what I did. And it led me to reassess these questions of who I want to be. And after looking at the facts and saying, this is journalism, this isn't journalism, when I ask myself who I want to be once I leave Biola, I don't want to be Scott Oak anymore. I don't just want to be the guy out on the ice. I just want to be Bretton Theune, a truthful journalist. Thank you very much.